All right, everybody. If you could, just comment with where you're watching from tonight. Always good to see where everyone is hanging out with us. Also, share this Facebook Live. That helps us a lot as well. We're trying to reach a significant audience, obviously, with weather information that we believe is important. So we're doing it again, aren't we? Yep. Yet another risk of strong to severe thunderstorms around the state. Later on tonight into mainly early tomorrow morning, we have ongoing tornado situations unfolding west of Alabama. It's just going to be that kind of night, unfortunately. So that's what we're on for tonight, is to discuss this whole sordid affair, if you will. As always, I am your friendly host, Josh Johnson. I've been called better. I've been called worse. For those of you watching on Facebook, we thank you. For those of you watching us on YouTube, we thank you as well. So we will crank this thing up momentarily. A little bit of a delay here on my end, but we'll work through that. So a lot to talk about tonight. Here's the updated Storm Prediction Center map. Again, your mileage will vary from one town to the next here, but the idea is this. The area in darker green, we can't rule out severe weather, but it's unlikely. Area outlined in yellow and orange, it is more likely. And that orange area especially, you go Mobile, Baldwin, Washington, Clark, Monroe, Conecuh, Escambia, Covington. Those would all be counties where I suspect that we may end up with a significant tornado threat later on tonight into early tomorrow morning, which we'll talk timing on this momentarily. So that's the official map from the government. We'll walk you through this. And what I want to show you is the air temperature, because quite frankly, tonight is one of these episodes where everything else is there. There's cold air aloft. There's a ton of turning and wind shear in the environment. There's a ton of strong wind fields above the ground. All of that argues towards a substantial risk of severe weather and potentially tornadoes. What we don't have is warm, muggy air near the ground. We don't have that. That's the one thing, the one ingredient in this specific instance we don't have. So as you walk through this with me, you're going to specifically look for and see this little triangle here of warm air. That's where the problems will develop. So we're talking Wilcox, Monroe, Conecuh, Covington, maybe Butler, Crenshaw, Pike, but more likely the Wiregrass. So really it's far south Alabama where we would deal with a more robust tornado threat. Let's walk you through this timeline here and just sort of go hour by hour. So this gets going, we think, around midnight to 1 out west. So Marengo, Clark, Sumter, Greene, Hale, Washington, Choctaw, Mobile, Baldwin counties. Midnight, here's 1 a.m., here's 2 a.m., and so this up here in west central Alabama would be producing damaging wind gust, perhaps even away from the thunderstorms. That's the other kind of big message we've got to get through to you here, is the wind damage threat in this pattern is substantial. Again, even if we're not talking about a storm scenario, we may have sporadic power outages and tree limbs blown down away from thunderstorms. So just be aware that that's on the table here as a possibility. Again, this would be everywhere. The tornado risk is in South Alabama, but the risk of spotty power outages exists area-wide. Now, this will not be like a hurricane where 200,000 people lose power. It's not that. We're talking about 10,000 people across central Alabama could lose power briefly overnight tonight. So back to the data here, and we'll dive into it full screen so you can see it. So this is 2 in the morning. Here's 3. Okay, now you've got the line to the north, but notice what's happening south of Montgomery, these individual thunderstorms. These could be exceptionally problematic if the air gets warm enough down here. So again, this would be, we're talking Monroe, Conecuh, Escambia, Mobile, Baldwin, Clark, Covington, Maybe southern Butler, southern Crenshaw, but I think once you get to Greenville and Laverne, the threat would be south of you. We'll keep an eye on it, though. So then this keeps on rolling east as we go through the morning. And by 7 o'clock, this is essentially gone, and by 8 o'clock, it is gone. So this will not be a long duration event. This will be kind of a quick hitter, if you will. Many of you may be wondering where are the storms now. Well, here you go. This is radar back in Louisiana and Mississippi. You can kind of see this line of storms. To the north, quite frankly, the air is not quite unstable enough right here. So they're getting a lot of wind in that, but that's about it. So a ton of wind. The tornado threat is more down on the southern flank here where the air is warmer and muggier. Here we'll take you into Lake Charles radar. You'll notice the active tornado warning polygon near Lake Arthur, headed up towards Interstate 10. Again, this is all in Louisiana. So this will move east through the night ahead. And this is going to be a really problematic severe weather episode down south. The Storm Prediction Center has this enhanced risk down here, but they also have a hatched tornado risk from about Destin, Mobile, Pensacola, Biloxi, New Orleans, Baton Rouge. So there's a lot of places in this that have a substantial risk of seeing not just tornadoes tonight, but maybe big tornadoes, EF2 and higher. Again, this would be closer to the Gulf Coast because that's, again, not to beat the dead horse here, but that's the limiting factor in this. How far north does the warm, muggy air make it? And I'll show you the same data that we use here. You would really look for this down here. See how that gets darker blue down there in far south Alabama? Let's take it full so you can see it better. That's what I'm talking about. That's the moisture supply down there. So that would be the area. That would be the corridor of concern, would be, again, about Monroeville over towards maybe Clio and point south from there. That southernmost tier of counties down in South Alabama. That's where the big area of concern would shake out there in this sort of pattern. So it's not one size fits all. You know, if you live from Montgomery, Prattville, Millbrook, Wetumpka, Pike Road, Alex City, Selma, the risk for you is mainly wind. I can't rule out a tornado, but the odds are stacked heavily against that happening. If you live in Conecuh, Covington, Crenshaw, Escambia, there is a more substantial tornado risk. And depending on how much moisture comes north, it could potentially be a significant tornado risk. So it just all depends on what part of the state you call home. And I can show you a map with lines drawn on it, but I promise the tornado has no idea. Any tornado has no idea what lines are there. So it's not a yes or no thing. It's the farther south you go, the higher the risk is. You live in Mobile, it's a big deal. You live in Montgomery, it's probably not. So some questions. A wind map of how strong the winds will be? No, I don't. All the models overestimate winds on nights like this. I will show you one. But what I want you to understand is you're going to see numbers on here that are probably a little overdone. This suggests 30 to 40 with some peaks up around 40 to 45. That's probably about right. That's been my projection all along, is this would be in the 30 to 40 mile per hour range. So we're not talking about, anything like a hurricane or anything like that. Also point out over here, North Mississippi, that's where we could have a more substantial widespread wind threat. So North Mississippi, Northwest Alabama, they could actually see a little more. See that little strong core of wind that develops right there? Little punch in the jet stream there coming in. That could create quite a bit of power outages up here in North Mississippi, Northwest Alabama. Where we live, it's, again, more in that 30 to 40 range. So if you're familiar with tropical weather, if you've been through a tropical storm before, this would be about what you're talking about. A low-end tropical storm would be about that. Audrey Glenn asking about mobile homes in Prattville and should you leave. Frankly, that's an impossible question to answer. It depends on, do you have big trees over it? How well is it anchored to the ground? Those sorts of questions that I don't know. I would feel okay in a mobile home in Prattville tonight because I think the tornado risk is near zero if that mobile home was well anchored. and if there were no giant trees hanging over it. But, if it's not a well-anchored mobile home and you do have maybe a large diseased or old tree hanging precariously over it, maybe I wouldn't feel comfortable. Again, it's very hard to give a yes or no based on your specific situation because everyone's specifics are a bit different. So, all right, it's now 5:54. I appreciate you watching us on this Facebook Live. We're also live on my YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed to that yet, again, you could just go to YouTube and search for Josh Johnson WSFA. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I have not been convinced yet to get TikTok. I guess I'm an old man. I don't know. So those are the three that I'm on right now. If you have a compelling case to make for TikTok, speak now or forever hold your gummy beans, jelly beans, gummy bears, whatever. Okay, so thank everyone for watching. As always, appreciate your time. I'm going to be here all night tonight. It's a little spend the night party at the TV station. So if something pops, we'll be here. I sleep with one eye open and my tie tied. So, and I probably won't even sleep. So we'll do some updates on the weather app throughout the night as well. Be sure to watch that. And if you're near a television, I've got WSFA 12 News at 6 coming on in about 5 minutes. The only voice for TikTok is my dear friend Nicholas. Nick, are you on TikTok? I don't believe that. Russell asked about Diet Sunkist. I actually ran out of time today. I do have a lot of Diet Mountain Dew ready to rock, though. And just Josh luck on this whole thing. I have a important summit to attend tomorrow in Montgomery from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. So I'm going to stay at the TV station until about 7:30 in the morning and then go straight to that. So that'll be fun, right? Nick has TikTok. Okay. All right, well, then I'll think about it. All right, everybody. As always, thank you so much for your time.